Oh, hello. UFC Fight Week this year. It's on its way. UFC 290 is obviously the headline event of Fight Week, headlined by, of course, Alexander Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez for the featherweight title of the world. You're unifying the belts, however you want to see it. I don't really see the interim title as a valid title, but that's another debate entirely. This is the casual's guide to UFC 290. This is the Burt Locker, and I'm Burt Green. The idea of this video is that it's quick hit style information on every single fighter, every single fight on this card. Now, this card is gigantic, both in the scale of the fights and in how many fights there are. So, this one's probably going to time in at about 20 minutes. My aim is to get this done in 20 minutes or less. I'm not confident because this card is a behemoth. So, better get started then, really. We'll start off in the early prelims with Kamuela Kirk against Esteban Ribovic, the 155-pound division. 5'10", plays 5'10" with a 6-inch reach for Kirk. Kirk is a BJJ black belt, he's very effective. 12 wins, 11 finishes, 6 submissions, and he beat Amikani as well, who's very good. That's a big win. He's coming off a loss from Trevor to GTA, Damon Jackson, his real name is, but I call him Trevor from GTA because he's just got that kind of face. El Gringo, Esteban Ribovic, is also coming off his only loss. Outside of that, he's also a finisher, 11 wins, 11 finishes, and he's split pretty evenly between submissions and KOs. Both these guys are very good. I do think that Kirk has faced a better competition, and he's beat Amikani, so that's my pick. Tough one to call this one, but my pick is going to be Kamuela Kirk. Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilera in 125-pound division. 5'6", plays 5'4", with a 3.5-inch reach for Aguilera. Shannon Ross has very good hands, really good hands. He comes from a boxing club, but he has struggled in the UFC, to be fair. Aguilera is also new to the UFC. He has a wicked guillotine, though, so watch out for that. I'm taking Aguilera by guillotine. Cameron Saman taking on Terrence Mitchell. 135-pound division. 5'8", plays 5'9". Now, Saman is a young kid. He trains with Dricus du Plessis, who we'll see against Robert Whittaker later on in this card. He's a very good all-round fighter, this kid. Very athletic. He moves really well. He's always on his bike. He's very hard to pin down. Mitchell, UFC debut. He's not really fought anyone of note. 14 wins, all finishes. Sherdog has him at 14-2, not 15-2. So I think the UFC stats are slightly off on that one. I think they included an amateur fight, which shouldn't really be included. Anyway, we haven't really seen very much of him. He's a good finisher on the regionals. I did watch a YouTube highlight clip. He's pretty good. Simon should get the win here though, because he is probably he's better. He's very, very good. He is against a dangerous guy though, so maybe watch his P's and Q's. But my pick would be Cameron Saman in that one. Vitor Petrino taking on Marcin Prachnio. 6'2", plays 6'3", with a 3.5-inch reach for Petrino. Vitor is a Brazilian killer, 8-0. He's got a good knockout on the Contender Series, but he's built like an absolute monster. Really great hands as well. Nice Muay Thai. He mixes up the kicks well. Now, Prachnio, he's a solid fighter, karate background, gives him this really long style that's kind of hard to navigate. He usually softens people up to the body, to the legs, and he's quite elusive. His timing in and out is actually very good. He got a very good win over Villanueva using some effective body kicks in that one. So probably the best example of what he does well. Now, this one should stay standing, which I think is good for both guys. We've seen Prachnio get caught though, and the Brazilian's undefeated, so I'm rolling the dice on the Brazilian killer in that one. Tetsuro Tayari taking on Edgar Chairez. Catch weight fight. Tayari is a prospect coming out of Japan. Really good footwork. He's got nice kicks, and he's got good grappling. He's a good all-rounder, to be fair. He got a lovely triangle switch armbar on Aguilera last time out, who we saw earlier on in the card. Chairez is a UFC first-timer. He's been okay on the regionals. He's finished all 10 of his fights, and he's got 10 wins. So he's got nice body kicks because he's finished a couple. I've noticed on his record he's finished a couple of fights with body kicks, and on his YouTube clip he looked pretty good in that regard. I'm going to take the Japanese prospect here though, just because he's undefeated and he's probably faced slightly better competition. So that's the early prelims. Now we'll move on to the actual prelims, the main prelims, if you will. If you could do me a favour, hit subscribe. If you enjoy this content, just do me a favour, hit subscribe, and it helps me out a lot. You can comment as well as you want. Just let me know who you think's going to win. I do read them from time to time, but anyway. Starting off with Jimmy Crute taking on Alonzo Menefield in 205-pound division. 6'2", plays 6 foot with a 2-inch reach for Menefield. Now this is a big rematch. The first fight between these two ended due to a point deduction when Menefield grabbed the fence. Sorry, it ended in a draw. So it's, as good as a no contest. Either way, it was a very competitive fight. This is going to be a fun one. Crute is a game fighter, literally. He has a Resident Evil tattoo on his chest, which I'm a big fan of. Other than that, look, he's a very solid fighter. He's solid everywhere. He's strong. He's big. He's very, very tough. His submissions are very good. Anyone who can submit Paul Craig, which he has done, is very good with submissions. He knocked out Bukowskis as well, so his kickboxing is also very good. He can be vulnerable to low calf kicks though. Well, I've noticed that as something that he tends to get caught out on a fair amount. Menefield, he's a former college level linebacker, played for Alabama, I think, or Texas A&M. Either way, he fights like he's a linebacker as well. He's an absolute powerhouse. He's very hard to move, very, very just tough and durable. He's got this weird power about him. In the first fight, it was fairly competitive. I do think Menefield was getting the better of it just ever so slightly. But look, no two fights are the same. This one's going to be super, super fun. It was last time. Look, I'm going to go and take Menefield again just because he's got this weird power, this weird linebacker athletic power that he brings to the table, which I very, very much enjoy. Then you've got Jasmine Haregu against Denise Gomez in the 115-pound ladies. 5'3", plays 5'2", with a 1-inch reach for Haregu. I'm going to call her Jasmine because I can't pronounce her last name anyway. Jasmine's 10-0. She's coming off a nice knockout of Nunes. Not that Nunes. Estela Nunes. Still, it's a good win. She's got good hands. She's got good boxing. She's got that good Mexican boxing style. And she fights like a Mexican in a good way. Gomez, she looks like she's about to oversee a drug deal and possibly cut somebody up with a chainsaw. I did watch Scarface this week. I don't know. She looks like she could be a henchman. Either way, she's very scary. She's got good hands. She got a very good win over Bruna Brasil in her last fight. That's impressive because I kind of had Bruna Brasil winning that one. Anyway, it's tough to go against undefeated, but I'm going to win this one. I like Gomez here just because she looks hella scary, and that counts for something. Then you've got Jack Della Maddalena taking on Josiah Harrell in the 170-pound division. JDM, he's an exciting fight. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I'm glad he's still on the card. His original opponent did fall out. I haven't seen anybody hit as hard as JDM since Rumble Johnson fought at welterweight. Honestly, he hits so hard, especially his body shots. His boxing is so crisp. His technical boxing is unbelievable. His footwork's on another level. Ridiculous. The sky's the limit for Jack Della Maddalena. Fair to play to Josiah Harrell for stepping in. The kid is undefeated. They call him the Muscle Hamster for some reason. That's a great nickname. I love that. He's coming off 2 back-to-back knockouts. He's in good shape. He throws a good punch. Look, anything can happen in MMA. Fair play to him for stepping up because it's nice to have JDM still on the card. I think JDM probably wins this one. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a highlight reel knockout for Jack Della Maddalena. But look, this guy's stepped in. He's not coming there to lose. But JDM's my pick for that one. Robbie Lawler taking on Nico Price. 5'11", plays 6'2", with a 2-inch reach for Price. Now, this is a huge fight for me personally because this marks the end of the fantastic career of one Mr. Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler's the reason I started watching mixed martial arts in the first place. His first fight against Tiki Grohl, he knocked a bit of his eyebrow out, and yeah, he's had such a brilliant career. He always brings it. Ruthless is the right nickname for him. He comes in, he knocks people's heads off. When he managed to capture the title, I just thought it was one of the happiest moments in mixed martial arts for me personally because it was just seeing him come full circle to being dropped from the UFC, fighting through Strikeforce, coming back to the UFC, capturing the title. That huge fight against Rory McDonald, the one that's in the Hall of Fame, because it ridiculous tear-up. Go back and watch some of his fights. He's had some ridiculous tear-ups. When he knocked out Melvin Manhoef in Strikeforce after getting his leg was broken from those leg kicks, and he still managed to knock out Melvin Manhoef. That's ridiculous. That's the kind of guy Robbie Lawler is. He's tough, he's exciting, and the MMA world is going to be a worse place without him in it. But he's had a tremendous career, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the octagon one last time. What can I say? Nico Price is a great dance partner for Robbie Lawler in this regard. He's going to engage, he's going to throw, he's a very fun fighter himself. I'm a big fan of Nico Price. Look, anybody that can knock somebody out with hammer fists from the bottom, from his guard, is okay in my book. I think that I'm a huge fan of Nico Price. Look, for me, I'm going to back Lawler in this one. I'm going to put money on him. I don't know if he's going to win. He hasn't had a good record as of late, but he's obviously in, this is his last fight. Anyone that's already announced that they're retiring, I don't know. It's not usually a good omen, but Nico Price, he leaves plenty of openings. He could get caught. Anybody, if you're fighting Robbie Lawler, he's got the power to put your lights out at any time. But I'm going to bet on Robbie Lawler just because I want him to win more than anything. But that's going to be a great tear-up. And what a fitting send-off to a legend like Robbie Lawler. Then you've got the main card. If you could do me a favour, please, just hit subscribe. Don't even think about it. Just hit subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. That's it. You're done. That's all I've asked you to do. It's nice, isn't it? Anyway. First fight on the main card, Bo Nickel against Val Woodburn. Now, Bo Nickel, he's essentially a middleweight version of what Brock Lesnar would have been if he'd have gone straight from amateur wrestling into the UFC, into mixed martial arts. He's a stud wrestler, and he's got a BJJ blue belt, but it's kind of redundant at this point because he's so good at wrestling. He's got such a strong squeeze that most of the time, look, if he gets a rear naked choke on you, you're done. If he gets your back, you're basically done. And he's pretty good at doing that, in all honesty. Val Woodburn is stepping in at short notice. Fair play to him because the original opponent, Tristan Gore, actually fell out. He's got an injury. I thought that was a more interesting fight. This one's going to be interesting because, look, Val is stepping in at short notice. He's a big physical middleweight. He's got good hands. He's got decent power. I have watched a YouTube video of his highlights. He has got decent power. Like, I'll give him that. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to land anything on Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel, it's the speed and the transition of the transitions on the ground that are just phenomenal. Like, when he gets people to the ground, the way he transitions and gets through people's guard is like nothing I've seen really in MMA. Like, just the speed and just the competency there. Like, if he's so hard to stop, I don't think Val Woodburn's going to stop him. I think this is going to be another submission from rear naked choke, Bo Nickel for me on that one. Jalen Turner then takes on Dan Hooker in the lightweight division. So you've got 6'3" playing 6 foot even with a 2-inch reach for Turner. Now, Turner's a real puzzle at 155. He's very tall, he's very long, he fights long as well. He fights very well. He's got very good kickboxing, he's got an excellent guillotine, and his chokes in general, to be fair. He usually finds those after softening up his opponents with kickboxing. When you see what he did to Brad Riddell, that's a prime example of that. All 13 wins are finishers. He is a finisher. He's ruthless. He's got all the attributes. I thought he actually edged Mateus Gamrot in their fight. But either way, just to be that competitive with Mateus Gamrot, win or lose, to go to a very close decision, that shows you the level that he's at. Absolutely brilliant fighter. Dan Hooker, man, he never gets easy fights, does he? But he doesn't want easy fights. That's the thing that's so brilliant about Dan Hooker, the hangman. He's always game to throw down. He's a real fighter. And I'm such a huge fan of Dan Hooker. I really am. He's a high-level kickboxer. He comes from the City Kickboxing guys with Israel Adesanya and Volkanovski. Like, that's an incredible camp, especially when it comes to kickboxing. His timing, his footwork is fantastic, but he does tend to like engaging in firefights, and that's not always to his benefit. You know, when you see what happened with Dustin Poirier, for instance. But he's so tough. He just loves fighting. You can tell. He gets involved in those brawls and he's having the time of his life. And I love seeing those kind of characters. He's absolutely brilliant. He's also got some great submissions. They call him the Hangman for a reason because he will choke you out. Look, these two are similar in a lot of ways. I think, for me, it's just Turner's time. I think he's probably a little bit too big. He uses his length too well to get caught up in a firefight. I think that Dan Hooker's going to want to engage in a firefight. I don't think that Jalen Turner's going to oblige him in that regard. I think he's going to use his length, use his footwork to keep him at bay. And I don't know, if it goes to the ground, I do think that Jalen Turner may well find a submission here. Very interesting fight, though. Never count Dan Hooker out of these things because he is as game as they get. He really is. Then you've got Robert Whittaker taking on Dricus du Plessis in the middleweight division. Now this one is my personal main event of the evening. Fantastic stuff. 6 foot plays 6'1" with a 2.5-inch reach for du Plessis. Whittaker is the best middleweight in the world, not named Adesanya. He has not lost to anybody not named Israel since 2014. That's mental. That is absolutely crazy. His footwork is outstanding. His cardio, his work rate, he puts a pace on. He's intelligent. He makes good decisions in the octagon. He's got no glaring weaknesses at all. He's the Reaper for a reason. He's such a tricky puzzle to beat. Dricus du Plessis, he's just a tough son of a bitch. He really is. He's got fantastic kickboxing. His kicks, particularly his body kicks, are very, very powerful. He does carry a lot of power. He's a big lump. When you look at him, like his frame, he is a big lump. He's got good takedowns as well. We saw that against Darren Till, right? The only thing is, sometimes it looks like he's gassing. Like, I don't know how well his cardio is going to hold up. He always looks more tired than he is, but I still don't know for sure if he's got the cardio to match Robert Whittaker. Look, every core of my being says that Whittaker is a step too far for Dricus du Plessis. He's not lost to anyone not named Israel Adesanya since 2014, and he's just so great in every area. Dricus had trouble against, Till and Brunson, who, let's be fair, Whittaker would smoke. That being said, I'm taking Dricus du Plessis by TKO. Boom, there's my pick. Brandon Moreno then takes on Alexandre Pantoja in the flyweight title fight. 5'7", plays 5'5", with a 3-inch reach for Moreno. Now, Moreno is a typical Mexican fighter. He bites down on the mouthpiece. He throws down when he has to, but he's also very technical. His kickboxing's very good. He's got brilliant footwork, and on the ground, he's an assassin. I'm a big, big fan of him. Pantoja's a killer. He's coming off 2 submission victories. He's a solid striker, but submissions is what really sets him apart. For me, I think Moreno is currently the best in the division. If the Moreno we know, the one that fought Figueiredo, turns up against Pantoja, I do think that he gets the win here. But anyone can get caught. But for me, I'm taking Moreno by submission in this one. Then you've got the main event of the evening. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Yair Rodriguez. 5'6", plays 5'11", with a 1/2 inch reach for Volkanovski. Now, there's lots of leg reach for Yair Rodriguez as well, which is a problem in its own regard. So, Alex Volkanovski, for me, he's the best fighter in the world. He's the best fighter alive today, for me. He's such a high-level kickboxer. His footwork is like nothing I've ever seen. When he fought Max for the 3rd time, he was able to get in, throw combinations, and get out, and he was just not taking a hit. He can hit and not get hit, but he can also take a hit, which is a problem. He can also take getting a submission. Like, Ortega had him in 2 tight chokes, and he just refused to give up and was able to get out of them. He's built differently, Volkanovski. He just doesn't have any quit in him. Craig Jones has really helped him out with his jiu-jitsu as well, because we saw him put together a game plan that arguably they're the only guys to put together, himself and Craig Jones, his jiu-jitsu coach, are the only guys to put together anything that's troubled that Dagestan style. Arguably, he won that fight. I'm not going to go into, who won or who lost, but the fact of the matter is, before they announced the winner of Islam Makhachev and Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev was calling for a rematch. You heard it, I heard it, we all heard it. Islam Makhachev was not convinced that he won that fight. So don't tell me that wasn't as close as it could possibly be. And don't tell me that you can't make a case that Volkanovski possibly beat Islam on that night, because even Makhachev thought he had lost. You could see it in him. You could. And the fact of the matter is, Volkanovski was massively undersized in that fight. He was going up a weight class to fight this champion that's a monster that was supposed to steamroll him. The fact that he was able to put on that performance just makes me think that there isn't really any featherweights alive right now that are going to be able to do anything to Volkanovski. That being said, Yair Rodriguez is an unpredictable guy. He's just so hard to predict. You just don't know what he's going to throw next. How do you train for that? How do you prepare for a guy who's throwing 360 spinning kicks and knocking people out, and you're doing back kicks on people's knees to kind of put them off balance so you can then land a head kick? His kicks are out of this world. He's up there with Edson Barboza in insane kicking ability. He might be the best at kicking, to be fair. And he's just so game. He's coming here to win. He knows he's got that explosive power, and he can put you out. instantly. Now, for me, I love this fight. Explosiveness, all in favour of Yair Rodriguez, but do I think that Volkanovski is going to allow him to explode, to do those things? I don't know. Volkanovski has a way of just nullifying everything that fighters seem to do well. He just has this knack of being able to do whatever he wants to do whilst nullifying what his opponents want to do. And until I see somebody really kind of put a beating on Volkanovski, I'm going to take Volkanovski. I have to take Volkanovski. I think he's going to get a ground and pound finish. I do see a universe where Yair wins this, but for me, this weekend, I think it belongs to Volkanovski. He's going to get a ground and pound TKO finish. And that is all I've got time for, and it's come in at just under 20 minutes. So I actually managed it. I was sceptical, but I did it. We'll recap these next week. Until next time, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.